The old salvage ship Star Chaser drifted silently through the darkness of the Kuiper Belt. Its sensors swept the endless void, searching for anything worth collecting. Captain James Walker stood at the bridge window, his weathered hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. 20 years of salvage work had taught him that patience was everything in this business. A soft beep from the sensor station broke the silence. "Captain, we got something big on long-range scan," called out Mike from his station. "It's not showing up in any of our databases." Walker walked over to look at the readout. His interest sparked. Unknown objects usually meant either danger or profit, and sometimes both. "How big are we talking about?" "About 3 times our size, sir. And it's just sitting there." The captain smiled. Derelict ships were exactly what they were looking for. "Take us in closer, but keep the shields up. No point in being careless." As they approached, the object grew larger on their view screen. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before. The ship, if it could be called that, looked like a massive coral formation made of metal. Its surface was covered in what appeared to be rust, but the patterns it formed were too regular, too purposeful to be simple corrosion. "That's not human-made," said Lisa, their engineering specialist, stating the obvious. "And it's not from any of the known alien civilizations either. The design is completely foreign." Walker felt a familiar tingle of excitement run down his spine. "Any signs of life or active systems?" "None that I can detect," Mike replied. "But there's something odd about the energy readings. They're very faint, but they don't match any known power source." The captain made his decision. "Suit up, everyone. We're going to take a closer look." An hour later, Walker led his 4-person team through the airlock. Their magnetic boots clanked against the hull of the mysterious vessel as they made their first steps. Up close, the rust covering the ship's surface seemed to shimmer slightly, as if it was moving in patterns too subtle for human eyes to fully track. "This is incredible," Tom Reed, their technical expert, muttered as he ran his scanner over the hull. "The metal composition. I've never seen anything like it. And look at how the surface reacts when I do this." He pressed his gloved hand against the hull, and the rusty patterns seemed to ripple outward from the point of contact. "Is it safe?" Walker asked, watching the strange reaction with concern. "As far as I can tell, yes. It's not corrosive or radioactive. It's almost like it's responding to us." They found what appeared to be an entrance, a hexagonal doorway that was partially open. The team carefully made their way inside, their helmet lights illuminating corridors that might have been undisturbed for millions of years. The interior was just as strange as the exterior. The walls had the same rusty appearance, but here they could see that it formed intricate patterns, almost like circuit boards or writing. Their boots left footprints in the fine dust that covered the floor, but underneath they could see that the deck was made of the same mysterious material. "Captain," Lisa called out, "these readings suggest the ship still has power. It's minimal, but it's there. Something in here is still running after all this time." Walker felt a mix of excitement and unease. A powered ship this old should be impossible. "Can you trace the source?" "I think so. It's coming from what might be the bridge or control center, about 50 meters ahead." They moved carefully through the ship, documenting everything with their suit cameras. The corridors seemed to bend and twist in ways that didn't make sense, as if the ship's interior geometry didn't quite match what they had seen from outside. The bridge, when they found it, was both alien and somehow familiar. There were stations that could have been control panels, though they were covered in the same rusty material as everything else. In the center of the room stood what looked like a pilot's chair, but it was sized for something much larger than a human. Tom immediately went to work with his equipment. "Captain, you're not going to believe this. The rust. It's not rust at all. It's some kind of, well, the best way I can describe it is living metal. It's a form of technology so advanced it might as well be magic to us." Living metal. Walker moved closer to examine what Tom was looking at. "Explain." It's like a combination of nanobots and organic material. It can repair itself, adapt to damage, maybe even evolve. And it's still active, just sleeping, I guess you could say. Lisa joined them, her scanner displaying complex readings. He's right. And there's more. The whole ship seems to be made of this stuff. It's not just a coating. It goes all the way through. This ship isn't just a ship. It's practically a living organism. Walker considered their discovery. A ship that could repair itself, that might even be able to adapt and evolve. It could be worth a fortune to the right buyer. But something told him this find was too important to simply sell to the highest bidder. "What do you think it was used for?" he asked, running his hand along one of the control panels. The surface seemed to warm slightly at his touch. "Based on the layout and what we can see of its systems, I'd say it was an exploration vessel," Tom replied. "But the technology, whoever built this was far beyond anything we've ever encountered. The known alien races would kill to have something like this." "Then maybe we should be careful who we tell about it," Walker said thoughtfully. "Mike, send a message to Earth's Defense Command. Mark it low priority. We don't want to attract too much attention yet. Tell them we found an unusual derelict that might be worth examining, but don't mention anything about the living metal or active systems." "You think we should keep this quiet?" Lisa asked. Walker nodded. "For now. Something tells me we've stumbled onto something big here. If the wrong people find out about this ship's true nature too soon." He let the thought hang unfinished. The team spent several more hours documenting and examining the ship. They found no signs of what had happened to its original crew, no bodies or personal effects. It was as if the ship had simply been abandoned, left to drift through space until someone found it. As they prepared to return to their own vessel, Walker took one last look around the alien bridge. The rusty pattern seemed to pulse faintly in his helmet light, as if acknowledging his presence. He had a strong feeling that this discovery would change everything, not just for his crew, but possibly for all of humanity. "Let's head back," he announced. "Tom, start analyzing that data. I want to know everything about this living metal. Something tells me we're going to need to understand it very well, very soon." As they made their way back to their airlock, none of them noticed that their footprints in the dust were slowly fading away, the living metal absorbing and analyzing the traces they had left behind. The ancient ship wasn't just sleeping. It was learning, preparing for whatever its new discoverers might have in store for it. 2 weeks had passed since the discovery of the mysterious ship, and Tom Reed hadn't slept properly since. His lab aboard the Star Chaser was cluttered with samples and testing equipment, all focused on understanding the strange living metal they'd found. Empty coffee cups littered his workstation, testament to the long hours he'd spent studying the material. "You need to see this, Captain," Tom called out over the ship's comm system. His voice carried the excitement of someone who had just solved a difficult puzzle. Within minutes, Walker arrived at the lab, followed closely by Lisa. "What have you found?" Walker asked, noting the wild look in his engineer's eyes. Tom held up what looked like an ordinary piece of steel plating. "Watch this," he said, placing it next to a small sample of the alien ship's hull material. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the rusty-colored substance began to creep across the steel like spreading frost on a window. "Is it infecting the steel?" Lisa asked, leaning in for a closer look. "That's exactly what it's doing," Tom replied with a grin. "But here's the really interesting part." He picked up a hammer and struck the infected portion of the steel. Instead of denting, the metal flexed and then returned to its original shape. The nanites in the living metal are reproducing and converting our regular steel into something similar to the alien ship's hull. Walker watched as the transformation continued to spread. "Can we control it?" "That's the best part," Tom said, reaching for another sample. "Look at this piece." He held up a section of metal that had been completely converted. "I discovered that the nanites respond to electrical impulses. We can actually program them." They're like tiny computers that can rebuild themselves and change the properties of any metal they come in contact with. Lisa pulled out her tablet and started reviewing the test data. This is incredible. The possibilities for this technology. We could revolutionize spacecraft construction. Imagine hull plating that repairs itself, or structural components that can adapt to stress. Earth Defense Command just sent a response to our initial report, Walker said, his expression thoughtful. They're sending someone out to take a look, but they're not in any hurry. They think it's just another dead alien ship. Their lack of interest might be a good thing, Tom suggested. It gives us more time to understand what we're dealing with. I've barely scratched the surface of what this technology can do. Just then, Mike's voice came over the intercom. Captain, we've got an incoming ship. It's Dr. Anna Miller from the Defense Science Division. Walker raised an eyebrow. I thought they weren't interested. Apparently someone there is, Lisa said. I've heard of Dr. Miller. She's brilliant, known for thinking outside the box. Maybe she saw something in our report that others missed. They gathered in the docking bay to meet their visitor. Dr. Miller turned out to be a tall woman with sharp eyes and an air of contained energy about her. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. Show me everything, she said as soon as she stepped aboard. Your report mentioned unusual metal properties. I want to see them for myself. Tom led the way to his lab, explaining his discoveries as they walked. Dr. Miller listened intently, asking precise, technical questions that showed she grasped the implications immediately. You've discovered something extraordinary, she said after seeing Tom's demonstrations. This isn't just a new material, it's a new paradigm for technology. Have you tried introducing it to different types of metals? Several, Tom confirmed. It works better with some than others. Steel and titanium alloys seem to be the most receptive. Dr. Miller ran her fingers along the transformed metal sample. The military applications alone. But we need to be careful. If this technology works the way I think it does, it could change the balance of power in the galaxy. That's why we've kept the details quiet, Walker explained. Our official reports have been understated. Smart, Miller nodded. We need to continue development in secret. The moment other species learn what you've found, they'll try to take it. I've seen enough of their technology to know that none of them have anything like this. Over the next several days, Dr. Miller worked closely with Tom and Lisa, bringing her own expertise to bear on understanding the living metal. They discovered that not only could they program the nanites, but they could also influence their basic properties. Look at this, Miller said one evening, showing them a piece of transformed metal. We've managed to create a variant that responds to specific frequencies. It could form the basis for a new type of armor, one that becomes stronger when hit by enemy weapons. Tom had made another breakthrough as well. The nanites can transmit information between converted pieces of metal. They're networked. If we could scale this up, we could create entire ships that think and act as one organism. Lisa finished his thought. The applications go way beyond just weapons and armor. Walker, watching their progress, made a decision. Dr. Miller, how would you feel about running an unofficial project? Something off the books, at least for now. Miller smiled. I was hoping you'd suggest that. I've already started making arrangements. I know a facility where we can work without drawing attention. The official records will show we're conducting routine materials research. Won't Earth Defense Command want to know what we're doing? Lisa asked. They're currently focused on more obvious threats, Miller explained. Sometimes the best way to develop something revolutionary is to do it quietly, while everyone else is looking the other way. They spent the next few days transferring essential equipment and samples to Miller's facility. The alien ship itself they left in a remote orbit, tagged with a simple quarantine beacon that would keep others away without drawing attention. As they set up their new lab, Tom made another discovery. The nanites, they're learning from us, he announced one morning. Each generation adapts not just to our programming, but to how we use them. It's like they're trying to understand us. Miller found this particularly interesting. Could we use that? Create nanites specifically attuned to human neural patterns. Maybe, Tom said, but we'd need to be careful. We don't want to create something we can't control. Walker watched his team work, feeling both pride and concern. They were pushing the boundaries of known science, working with technology that was barely understood. But looking at the transformed metal samples, seeing how they responded to human touch and direction, he couldn't help but feel they were on the right track. Keep working, he told his team. But remember, if anyone asks, we're just studying an old, rusty ship. Nothing special about it at all. As if in response to his words, the nearest sample of living metal rippled slightly, its surface shifting in patterns that seemed almost like writing. The alien ship had been waiting for millions of years, and now finally, it had found beings who could understand and use its gifts. The universe would never be the same. The secret facility hummed with activity as Dr. Miller stood before a large observation window. On the other side, a piece of living metal the size of a car door floated in a testing chamber. Tom sat at a control panel nearby, his fingers dancing across the controls. "Ready for Neural Interface Test 7, Tom announced. He looked tired but excited. 3 months of work had led to this moment. "Lisa, are the sensors ready?" Lisa checked her readings. "All set. The metal sample is stable, and the neural patterns are aligned." Dr. Miller stepped forward, placing her hand on a sensor pad. The metal in the chamber began to shift and move, its surface rippling like water. Slowly, it started to form shapes. First simple geometric patterns, then more complex structures. "It's working," Tom whispered. "The metal is responding directly to your thoughts." Walker watched from the doorway, impressed by how far they'd come. In the months since discovering the alien ship, they'd learned that it wasn't just a vessel, it was a research platform, designed to explore and understand other forms of life. The original builders, Miller explained, her hand still on the sensor pad, they weren't looking to make weapons. They were scientists, explorers. The living metal was their way of adapting to whatever they might find out there. The metal in the chamber had formed itself into a perfect sphere, then shifted into a pyramid, responding to Miller's mental commands. But more importantly, it was learning, adapting to human thought patterns in ways they hadn't expected. "Look at this," Lisa said, pointing to her readings. "The neural interface is getting stronger. The metal isn't just responding to commands. It's anticipating them. It's like it wants to help us." Tom pulled up another set of data on his screen. "We've decoded more of the ship's database. The original species, they disappeared millions of years ago. But they left this technology behind, hoping someone would find it and understand it. And naturally," Walker added with a smile, "humanity decided to see if we could use it to protect ourselves." Their first major breakthrough had come when they discovered how to combine the living metal with conventional human weapons. The nanites could be programmed to enhance regular ammunition, creating bullets that could repair friendly ships they passed through while maintaining their destructive power against enemy vessels. "The targeting systems are revolutionary," Lisa explained, pulling up a demonstration on the main screen. "The living metal can distinguish friend from foe based on neural patterns. We don't even need IFF systems anymore." Miller nodded. "And the best part is, no one sees it coming. To everyone else, we're just recycling old technology, playing with an ancient derelict. Even our own military leadership doesn't fully understand what we've developed here." The team had grown cautious about sharing their discoveries. The few officials who knew the truth had agreed to keep the project quiet. Earth had too many potential enemies to risk the technology falling into the wrong hands. Walker walked over to another testing chamber where they kept their latest prototype, a small fighter craft covered in living metal. "How's the integration coming along?" "Better than we expected," Tom replied. "The metal bonds perfectly with our existing technology. It's like it was designed to be compatible with whatever species found it. We can maintain all our standard systems while adding self-repair capabilities and adaptive armor." Lisa pulled up another set of readings. "The really interesting part is how it handles energy weapons. When hit by a laser or plasma blast, the metal doesn't just resist the damage. It learns from it. Each hit makes it stronger against that specific type of weapon. And we've barely scratched the surface, Miller added. The ship's database suggests the metal can do things we haven't even tried yet. The original species was using it for peaceful exploration, but they understood its potential for defense. Their work was interrupted by an urgent message from Earth Defense Command. Walker read it, and his expression turned serious. "We've got company coming." A deep space survey team detected an unknown fleet approaching the outer solar system. They're not responding to hails. Miller quickly pulled up the sensor data. Multiple ships, heavily armed, based on their energy signatures. They're not from any species we've encountered before. "How long do we have?" Tom asked, already moving to secure their research data. 2 weeks, maybe less, Walker replied. They're moving fast, and their course is aimed directly at Earth. Miller made a quick decision. "It's time to speed up our testing schedule. Tom, prep the prototype fighter for full integration trials. Lisa, start uploading our weapons modifications to the Defense Fleet's secure network. We need to be ready." "What about the original ship?" Lisa asked. "It's still out there in its quarantine orbit." Walker smiled. "I think it's time we brought it in. After all, who better to face an unknown threat than a ship designed to adapt to anything it encounters?" The next few days were a blur of activity. The team worked around the clock, preparing their technology for what might be coming. They had kept their work secret to protect it, but now that secrecy might give them an advantage. Their potential enemies would be expecting to face standard human technology, not living metal that could think and adapt. "Look at this," Tom called out one evening, pointing to his screen. "I've been analyzing the approaching fleet's scan patterns. They're methodical, thorough. They're looking for something specific." Miller leaned in to study the data. "You think they're looking for the ship? After all this time?" "Maybe," Walker said. "Or maybe they're looking for any sign of the original builder's technology. Either way, they're in for a surprise. They'll be expecting to find an ancient derelict, not what we've turned it into." Lisa had been quiet, studying her own readings. "The living metal. It's excited. I know that sounds strange, but ever since we detected the approaching fleet, the neural patterns have become more active, more focused. It's like it knows it's about to be needed again." "Then let's not disappoint it," Miller said. "We've got less than 2 weeks to prepare for first contact, and I want humanity to make one hell of an impression." Walker looked through the observation window at their prototype fighter. Its surface rippled with patterns of living metal, looking both beautiful and deadly. They had found an ancient exploration vessel and turned it into something new, a perfect blend of human ingenuity and alien technology. Whatever was coming, they would be ready. The living metal seemed to pulse in agreement, its patterns shifting faster now, as if eager to show what it could do in human hands. The universe was about to learn that discovering something and understanding how to use it were two very different things, and humans had always been very, very good at the latter. The alien fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system exactly as predicted. Their ships were massive, sleek vessels that gleamed like polished obsidian in the dim sunlight. Earth's long-range sensors counted 37 ships in total, each one bigger than anything humanity had ever built. In the command center, Walker stood with Dr. Miller and his team, watching the main display as the enemy fleet approached. Earth's defense forces had been mobilized, but there was an air of resignation among the military commanders. They knew their regular ships were outmatched. "They're broadcasting," Mike announced from his communication station. The message began playing throughout the command center, translated by their computers. "Primitive human species," a deep voice boomed. "We are the Dominion. We have detected technology that does not belong to you. Surrender it and submit to our rule, or we will take it by force." One of the admirals snorted. "They're after that rusty old ship you found, Walker. All this for some ancient piece of junk." Walker exchanged knowing looks with his team. They had spent the last 2 weeks preparing for this moment, but only a handful of people knew what they had really done with the alien technology. "Sir," Walker addressed the Admiral, "request permission to lead the first response in Old Rust." The Admiral laughed. "You want to take that derelict into battle? It's your funeral, Captain." "Granted." As Walker and his crew headed for their ship, Dr. Miller's voice came through their private comm channel. "The neural interface is fully operational. The living metal has been integrated with all systems. Show them what humanity can do with a piece of junk." Old Rust, as they still called it, didn't look very impressive from the outside. Its hull still had that corroded, ancient appearance that had given it its nickname. But underneath that facade, every inch of the ship was alive with programmed nanites and integrated human technology. The Dominion fleet approached Mars orbit, their lead ship broadcasting another message. "Your silence is taken as refusal. We will now demonstrate our power." The largest alien vessel fired a massive energy beam at one of Earth's orbital defense platforms. The blast completely vaporized the platform, leaving nothing but floating debris. "That's our cue," Walker said to his crew. "Tom, power up all systems. Lisa, begin recording combat data for the nanites to analyze. Mike, battle stations." Old Rust moved out from its hiding place behind Phobos, Mars' smaller moon. The Dominion ships immediately detected them. "Ah, there it is." The alien commander's voice held amusement. "The ancient vessel we detected. How foolish of you to bring it to us. Your primitive attempts to understand its technology are insulting." Walker smiled. "Tom, show them what primitive humans can do." Old Rust's first shot looked like a standard railgun round, until it hit the nearest Dominion ship. On impact, the living metal ammunition spread across the enemy vessel's hull like a splash of water. Within seconds, the nanites began interfering with their systems. What is this?" The alien commander's voice lost its arrogance. "Their weapons are corrupting our hull integrity." The battle that followed was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The Dominion ships were powerful, but Old Rust was constantly adapting. Every hit it took made it stronger, its living metal analyzing and countering each weapon used against it. "Their energy weapons are becoming less effective," Lisa reported excitedly. "The hull is learning to absorb and redirect the energy, and our nanite rounds are successfully disabling their ship's systems." The Dominion fleet started to break formation, clearly unsettled by facing technology they thought they understood being used in ways they'd never imagined. 3 of their smaller ships had already gone dark, their systems overwhelmed by the living metal infection. "Impossible," the alien commander raged. "This is not how this technology functions. What have you done to it?" "We improved it," Walker replied calmly. "Turns out humans are good at thinking outside the box." The battle intensified as the Dominion realized they were facing a serious threat. They concentrated their fire on Old Rust, hitting it with everything they had. But with each attack, the ship's hull grew stronger, its defenses more sophisticated. "They're trying to hack our systems," Mike reported. Tom laughed. "Good luck with that. The living metal is actively rewriting its own code faster than they can break it. It's learning from their attempts." The tide of battle turned when Old Rust demonstrated its most devastating capability. The nanites they'd seeded into the disabled enemy ships began spreading, converting the alien vessels' hulls into more living metal that responded to human neural patterns. "Sir," Lisa called out, "we're getting readings from the infected ships. The living metal has reached their core systems. We have control." Walker opened a channel to Earth Command. "This is Captain Walker. Request permission to deploy the modified nanite warheads to the defense fleet. We can upgrade our ships during combat." There was a moment of stunned silence before the Admiral responded. "Granted, Walker. And good work. I guess we were wrong about that rusty ship of yours." As Earth's defense fleet moved in, Old Rust began sharing its technology. Specially designed missiles carried packets of programmed nanites, spreading living metal across the hulls of human ships. The Dominion could only watch in horror as their supposedly inferior opponents transformed before their eyes. "This is your final warning," Walker broadcast to the alien fleet. "Withdraw now, or face the consequences. We've only begun to show you what we can do with this technology." The Dominion's response was immediate. Their remaining ships began to retreat, breaking orbit so quickly they almost collided with each other. The mighty alien fleet, which had arrived expecting an easy conquest, was running from what they had dismissed as primitive humans playing with ancient technology. As the enemy fled, celebrations broke out across Earth's defense network. But in Old Rust's command center, Walker and his crew remained focused. "They'll be back," Miller's voice came through their private channel. "And they'll bring friends. But now they know we're not the easy target they thought we were." Tom checked his readings of the ship's systems. "The living metal has evolved more in this one battle than in all our tests combined. It's like it needed a real challenge to show its true potential. And we've barely scratched the surface," Lisa added. "Every piece of data we gathered today will help us develop new applications, new ways to use this technology." Walker looked out at the retreating enemy fleet, then at the Earth ships now bearing traces of living metal across their hulls. They had done more than win a battle. They had changed the rules of warfare itself. Humanity had taken an abandoned piece of ancient technology and turned it into something new, something uniquely their own. "Well," he said to his crew, "I guess we should thank them. Nothing tests a weapon system quite like actual combat." The living metal of Old Rust's hull pulsed in agreement, its patterns shifting like waves as it continued to process and adapt to everything it had learned in the battle. The rusty old ship wasn't just a weapon anymore. It was becoming something entirely new, a hybrid of human ingenuity and alien technology that would change the galaxy forever. 3 months after the Dominion's retreat, Earth had changed dramatically. The sight of ships with patches of living metal had become common in orbit, and humanity's confidence had grown with their newfound strength. But Captain Walker and his crew knew the real challenges were just beginning. "They're coming back," Miller announced during their morning briefing. "Long-range sensors have detected multiple fleets approaching from different directions. The Dominion has called in their allies." Walker studied the tactical display showing hundreds of ships heading toward Earth. "How long do we have?" 5 days at most," Tom replied. "But we're ready for them. The living metal has evolved far beyond what we had during the first battle." He wasn't exaggerating. Old Rust had become something extraordinary. Its entire hull now rippled with constant motion, the living metal having fully integrated with every system. More importantly, they had discovered how to network it with other ships, creating a linked defense system that could learn and adapt as one. "Show them the new capabilities," Miller said to Lisa, who pulled up footage from their latest tests. On the screen, a test drone fired a powerful energy beam at a small fighter equipped with living metal. Instead of trying to block the blast, the fighter's hull absorbed it completely. Moments later, it redirected the energy back at the drone, using its attacker's own weapon against it. "The living metal doesn't just adapt to attacks anymore," Lisa explained. "It understands them, learns how to replicate them. Every weapon used against us becomes our weapon too." Walker smiled. "The Dominion thinks they're coming back with overwhelming force. They don't realize they're just giving us more technology to work with." The next few days were spent preparing Earth's defenses. Every ship in the fleet now carried at least some living metal components, all connected through the neural network they had developed. The original alien ship's database had proved to be a goldmine of information, teaching them new ways to use the technology every day. When the enemy fleets arrived, they came with a show of force meant to intimidate. Ships of various designs filled the sky, representing at least 6 different alien species who had joined the Dominion's cause. "Last chance, humans," the Dominion commander broadcast. "Surrender the technology you have stolen and submit to our rule. We are willing to be merciful." Walker sat in Old Rust's command chair, feeling the living metal respond to his thoughts. The ship wasn't just a tool anymore. It had become an extension of its crew, as alive as any of them. "This is Captain Walker of the Earth Defense Force," he replied. "We didn't steal anything. We found abandoned technology and improved it. If you want to see what we've done with it, just try to take it from us." The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries. The alien fleet attacked with everything they had, using weapons Earth had never seen before. But with each new attack, the living metal evolved, adapted, and grew stronger. "They're using some kind of quantum disruptor," Tom called out as strange energy waves rippled through space. Lisa checked her readings. "The metal is already analyzing it. 3 more hits and we'll be able to generate our own quantum fields." Old Rust led the defense, its hull constantly shifting and changing as it encountered new weapons. The ship had come so far from the derelict they'd found drifting in space. Now it moved like a living thing, anticipating attacks before they came, protecting other ships and striking back with copied alien weapons. "Multiple ships approaching from Sector 7, Mike reported. "They're trying to overwhelm us with numbers." Walker remained calm. "Activate the nanite swarms." This was their newest innovation. Clouds of free-floating living metal that could form temporary structures in space. The swarms created energy-absorbing barriers, redirecting enemy fire back at them. Some alien ships found themselves trapped in webs of living metal that infected their hulls, turning their own ships against them. "Sir," Lisa called out excitedly, "the neural network is picking up something interesting. The living metal, it's accessing memories from its original creators. I think the battle is triggering some kind of emergency protocols we didn't know about." On the main screen, they watched in amazement as Old Rust began to change shape. Its hull flowed like liquid, forming new structures and weapons they had never seen before. The original builders had left more than just an exploration vessel. They had left a blueprint for evolution itself. "The Dominion flagship is charging some kind of superweapon," Mike reported urgently. The alien vessel's front section split open, revealing a massive energy cannon. The blast that emerged was powerful enough to vaporize a small moon. But when it hit Old Rust, something remarkable happened. The living metal didn't just absorb the energy, it transformed it. The ship began to glow with power, its hull patterns spinning in complex fractal patterns. Then it released the energy back into space, not as a weapon, but as a wave of living metal that spread across the battlefield. Every ship touched by the wave was instantly covered in a layer of living metal. Enemy vessels found their weapons shutting down as their hulls transformed. Earth ships became stronger, their existing living metal enhanced by the wave's power. What are you?" The Dominion commander's voice shook with fear. Walker looked at his crew, then at the living metal rippling across his ship's walls. "We're human. We found something amazing and made it our own. That's what we do. We adapt, we improve, we evolve. And we're very, very good at it." The battle ended not with destruction, but with transformation. The alien fleets found themselves unable to fight, their ships partially converted by the living metal. But instead of destroying them, humanity offered them a choice. "You can leave," Walker broadcast to the assembled fleets, "and tell everyone what happened here. Or you can stay and learn to use this technology properly as part of Earth's alliance. We're not interested in conquest. We just want to explore and grow, which is exactly what this technology was meant for in the first place." In the days that followed, most of the alien ships chose to retreat, but some stayed, fascinated by what humans had accomplished with the ancient technology. Earth scientists began working with alien researchers, sharing their discoveries and learning from each other. Old Rust remained something special, though. The ship that had started as a piece of space junk had become a symbol of humanity's potential. Its hull still looked rusty from a distance, but now everyone knew that appearance was deceiving. "What do you think the original builders would think of what we've done with their ship?" Lisa asked one evening, as they watched Earth's first living metal shipyard take shape in orbit. Walker ran his hand along a wall. feeling the metal respond to his touch. I think they'd be proud. They left this technology, hoping someone would find it and understand it. We did more than that. We helped it grow into something new. The living metal pulsed under his hand, its patterns forming complex designs that seemed to agree with his words. Somewhere out in the galaxy, they knew other derelict ships were drifting, waiting to be found. But none of them would ever be quite like Old Rust, the ship that proved that sometimes the most powerful weapons aren't the ones you build, but the ones you discover and learn to understand. As Earth's influence grew and more species came to learn from them, the story spread across the galaxy. It became a legend, a reminder that you should never judge something, or someone, by their appearance. After all, sometimes the rustiest ship in space might just turn out to be the most powerful one of all. The stars themselves seemed to dim when the Brax warships moved through space. Their massive vessels looked like giant black insects with glowing red engines. For 200 years, they had spread across the galaxy, taking one solar system after another. Grand Commander Vex stood on the bridge of the Harvester, the largest ship in the Brax fleet. He was taller than most Brax, with a hard, shiny exoskeleton that had turned dark gray with age. 6 red eyes were set in his elongated head, and his mandibles clicked together when he was deep in thought. "Report," he ordered, his voice deep and raspy. Officer Mech approached with a bow. "The Talon system has fallen, Grand Commander. Their defense fleet was destroyed in under 2 hours. Our ground forces have secured all major cities on their home planet." Vex nodded slowly. "Casualties?" "Minimal, sir. The Talon weapons were primitive. They had no chance." A satisfied hiss escaped from between Vex's mandibles. "Add their resources to our inventory. Begin processing their population for labor." "Yes, Grand Commander." Vex turned to the large display that showed a map of the galaxy. Nearly all of it glowed with the red light that marked Brax territory. Only the outer edges remained untouched. "Soon," Vex whispered to himself. "Soon it will all be ours." On the other side of the galaxy, on a small blue planet called Earth, humans went about their daily lives. They had explored their own solar system and established colonies on Mars and several moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Their technology was advanced enough for limited travel between nearby stars, but they had never encountered intelligent alien life. Captain James Drake stood in the observation deck of the Moon Base Alpha, looking down at Earth. He was a tall man with short brown hair and a serious face that rarely smiled. At 42, he had spent most of his life in space, rising through the ranks of Earth's defense fleet. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said a voice behind him. Drake turned to see Admiral Wilson walking toward him. The older man had been Drake's mentor for many years. "It is," Drake agreed, "and soon I'll be leaving it again." Wilson nodded. "The Defiance is almost ready. Are you excited to take command?" Drake allowed himself a small smile. "It's the most advanced ship we've ever built. Who wouldn't be excited?" The two men gazed out at the distant blue sphere of Earth. "The Defiance is more than just a new ship," Wilson said quietly. "It's our insurance policy." Drake looked at him sharply. "Against what?" Wilson's face was grim. "We've been detecting strange signals from the Centauri sector. Something's out there, Drake. Something big. Alien life. Possibly. And if it is, we need to be ready." 3 weeks later, Drake stood in the docking bay of the Jupiter station, looking up at his new command. The Defiance was unlike any ship he had ever seen. It was sleek and angular, with a dark gray hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. At 500 meters long, it wasn't the largest ship in Earth's fleet, but it was by far the most advanced. Lieutenant Anna Miller, his second in command, joined him. She was young but brilliant, with short black hair and an intense focus that had earned her the position despite her age. "She's beautiful," Miller said, gazing up at the ship. Drake nodded. "And deadly. The new plasma cannons can punch through any known shield. The dimensional drive will make us faster than anything else in space." "The crew is ready, sir," Final testing begins tomorrow. Good. I want to push her to her limits. If the Defiance is going to protect Earth, we need to know exactly what she can do. For the next month, Drake and his crew of 200 put the Defiance through rigorous tests in the outer solar system. The ship performed beyond expectations, reaching speeds that made the stars blur and demonstrating weapons powerful enough to vaporize small asteroids with a single shot. Drake sat in the captain's chair on the bridge, reviewing the day's test results with Miller and Chief Engineer Tom Reed, a stocky man with a genius for engines and a perpetual oil stain on his uniform. The dimensional drive is operating at 110% efficiency, Reed reported proudly. I've never seen anything like it. Drake was about to respond when the communications officer called out, Captain, emergency transmission from Earth Command. Put it through, Drake ordered. Admiral Wilson's face appeared on the main screen. He looked pale, and his voice was urgent. Drake, we're under attack. Multiple unknown vessels have entered the solar system. They've already destroyed our outer defense platforms and... The transmission cut to static. Get him back, Drake shouted. I can't, sir, the communications officer replied, his voice shaking. All channels to Earth are being jammed. Drake turned to Miller. Battle stations, set course for Earth, maximum speed. The Defiance turned and accelerated toward home, the dimensional drive pushing it faster than any human vessel had ever traveled. But even at such speeds, it would take hours to reach Earth from their position near Neptune. Drake stood at the view screen, his face hard as stone. Tactical, give me any information you can get. I want to know what we're facing. As they raced toward Earth, scattered reports reached them. The attacking force was massive. Hundreds of ships with technology far beyond anything humans had developed. They had smashed through Earth's defenses like they were nothing. When the Defiance finally approached Earth orbit, Drake felt his heart sink. The planet's defense fleet had been reduced to floating debris. The moon base was a smoking ruin, and on Earth itself, great columns of smoke rose from every major city. My God, Miller whispered beside him. On the tactical display, they could see the alien ships, black, insect-like vessels with glowing red engines. They're landing troops, the tactical officer reported. Ground invasions in progress on all continents. Drake gripped the arms of his chair. Earth's government would fall within hours. Billions of lives were at stake, and his ship, one vessel, no matter how advanced, could not stop an invasion of this scale. Sir, Miller said quietly, what are your orders? Drake took a deep breath, making the hardest decision of his life. We can't save Earth. Not now. But we can survive. We can fight back. He turned to face his crew. The Defiance was built to protect humanity. To do that, we need to retreat, gather information about our enemy, and find a way to defeat them. Set course away from the solar system, he ordered. We're going to disappear, and then, when the time is right, we're going to come back and take our home. As the Defiance slipped away from the battle, Drake took one last look at the burning Earth. He made a silent promise to return, no matter how long it took. The invaders had conquered his world, but they had missed one ship, the one ship that might someday bring their empire crashing down. 3 days after their escape, the crew of the Defiance gathered in the ship's main meeting room. Faces were grim, eyes red from crying or lack of sleep. Captain Drake stood at the front, his shoulders heavy with the weight of their situation. I know you all want to go back, Drake said, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. I do too. But if we return now, we'll die, and Earth will have no hope at all. Lieutenant Miller spoke up. Captain, we've been monitoring Earth's broadcasts. The Brax, that's what they call themselves. They've taken control of all major cities. Resistance forces are forming, but she couldn't finish. But they don't stand a chance, Drake completed her thought. Not against the technology we've seen. Chief Engineer Reed raised his hand. Sir, I've been analyzing what data we gathered during our escape. The Brax ships use some kind of energy field we've never seen before. It's why our weapons couldn't damage them. And that's exactly why we can't go back yet, Drake said. We need to understand them, learn their weaknesses, and then strike when they least expect it. A young communications officer named Lisa Jones stood up. Her face was streaked with tears. My family was in London. I can't just abandon them. Drake walked over to her and put a hand on her shoulder. We're not abandoning anyone. We're their best hope. The Defiance is more than just a ship now. We're carrying the future of humanity with us. He looked around at his crew. Starting today, we are at war. Our mission is to survive, learn everything we can about the Brax, and prepare to take back our home. 1 month later, the Defiance hovered at the edge of the Epsilon Indi system, using a small uninhabited planet to hide from Brax patrols. Drake had established a routine for the crew, dividing them into teams for research, reconnaissance, and maintaining the ship. Dr. Alice Hayes, the ship's chief scientist, had set up a makeshift lab in one of the cargo bays. She was a short woman with graying hair and a fierce intelligence that had earned her multiple awards before the invasion. "Captain, you need to see this," she said as Drake entered her lab. She showed him a holographic display of what looked like an insect under a microscope. "This is a Brax cell sample we recovered from debris after our escape. Their biology is unlike anything we've seen. They're carbon-based, like us, but their cellular structure is incredibly complex." "Is that useful to us?" Drake asked. Hayes nodded eagerly. "Very. They have a unique sensitivity to certain radiation frequencies. It doesn't kill them, but it disrupts their neural patterns. Think of it as an instant migraine." Drake's eyes lit up. "Can we use that?" "Potentially. Reed and I are working on modifying one of our secondary weapons systems to emit that specific frequency." For the first time in weeks, Drake felt a spark of hope. Back on Earth, the Brax had transformed the planet. Massive processing facilities now covered what had once been major cities. Humans were rounded up and sorted, some put to work in mines and factories, others sent off-world for unknown purposes. Grand Commander Vex had established his headquarters in what used to be New York City. The gleaming skyscrapers had been replaced by a towering black structure that reached into the clouds. Vex gazed out over his new domain with satisfaction. "Report," he ordered as Officer Mech entered his chamber. "Earth's resources are exceeding expectations, Grand Commander. The water alone is more valuable than 3 standard planets, and the humans, while physically weak, show remarkable adaptability as workers." Vex clicked his mandibles in approval. "And the Resistance? Small and disorganized. They have no significant weapons. They'll be crushed within weeks." "Excellent." Vex turned away from the window. "Any sign of the missing ship?" Mech hesitated. "No, Grand Commander. Our scouts have found no trace of it." Vex's 6 eyes narrowed. "One ship should not concern us. But I dislike loose ends. Find it." 6 months after Earth's fall, the Defiant had become a ghost, slipping in and out of systems at the edges of Brax territory. They observed Brax ships from a distance, gathered information, and occasionally raided small outposts for supplies. Drake sat in his quarters reviewing the latest intelligence. They had learned much about the Brax, their hierarchical society, their advanced technology, and most importantly, some of their weaknesses. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," he called. Miller walked in, looking excited. "Captain, we've made contact with another resistance group. They're not human, but they hate the Brax as much as we do." Drake sat up straight. "Where?" "The Proxima system. They call themselves the Velox. Their planet was one of the first the Brax conquered, over 100 years ago." This was the breakthrough Drake had been waiting for. "Set course for Proxima. Let's meet our new friends." 2 days later, the Defiance entered the Proxima system, carefully avoiding Brax patrol routes they had mapped over months of observation. They landed on a small moon where, according to their information, the Velox resistance had a hidden base. Drake led a small team to the surface. They walked through a narrow canyon until they reached what looked like a solid rock wall. As they approached, a section of the wall shimmered and disappeared, revealing a hidden entrance. A tall, slender being stepped out. It had blue-gray skin, large almond-shaped eyes, and 4 arms. It raised 2 of its hands in what appeared to be a greeting. "I am Trell, leader of the Free Velox," it said in a surprisingly melodic voice. "You are the humans who escaped the Brax." Drake nodded. "I'm Captain James Drake of the Earth ship Defiance. We've been fighting the Brax for 6 months now." Trell's large eyes blinked slowly. 6 months. "We have been fighting for a century. Come inside, Captain Drake. We have much to share." Inside the moon base, Drake discovered a sophisticated operation. The Velox had been gathering intelligence on the Brax for generations. They had maps of Brax territory, details on their fleet movements, and even some understanding of their technology. "The Brax are not invincible," Trell explained as they studied a holographic map of the galaxy. "They have conquered much, but their empire has grown too large. They stretch themselves thin to maintain control." Drake leaned forward, studying the map. "Do you know why they do it? Why conquer so much?" Trell's 4 arms moved in a complex gesture that might have been the equivalent of a shrug. "They consume resources, technology, knowledge. They take it all. But we believe there is more to it. Something drives them to expand without end." Drake thought of Earth, transformed into a resource extraction hub. Whatever their reason, they need to be stopped. And I think the Defiance might be the key. He explained their ship's advanced technology and the modifications they had made based on what they had learned about Brax biology. Trell's eyes widened. This could change everything. The Brax have never faced a serious threat since they began their expansion. A single ship, striking where they least expected. Trell paused, then continued with new intensity. "Perhaps the time has come to do more than just survive." For the first time since Earth fell, Drake allowed himself to think beyond mere resistance. "Yes," he said, determination hardening his voice. "The time has come to fight back." 3 years passed. The Defiance was no longer just a warship. It had become a symbol of hope for a growing network of resistance fighters across dozens of systems. Captain Drake had aged during this time, lines deepening on his face, gray streaking his once brown hair. But his eyes burned with the same determination. The ship itself had changed too. Its sleek hull was now covered with patches of different metals, giving it a patchwork appearance. Chief Engineer Reed had integrated alien technology from 6 different species, making the Defiance unlike any vessel in the galaxy. "Status report," Drake said as he entered the bridge, which was now staffed by a mix of humans and aliens. Lieutenant Miller, now his trusted second-in-command, turned from her station. "The raid on the Brax supply depot was successful. We got the fuel cells and the data crystals. Casualties? None. In and out clean, just as planned." Drake nodded, relief washing over him. Each mission was a risk. Every crew member was irreplaceable. Trell, who had become the ship's intelligence officer, approached with a data pad. "The information from the crystals confirms our suspicions, Captain. The Brax are building something massive in the Ta City system." Drake studied the information. "A new weapon? We think so, but we need more data." "Set course for the edge of Ta City," Drake ordered. "We need to see this for ourselves." The hidden years had not been easy. At first, the crew of the Defiance had been united by shock and grief. But as months stretched into years, tensions grew. Some wanted to focus on rescuing human survivors from Earth. Others argued that defeating the Brax should be their only goal. Dr. Hayes had been the first to reach a breaking point. Drake found her in her lab late one night, tears streaming down her face as she stared at pictures of her family. "I'm a scientist," she had told him, her voice breaking. "Not a soldier. I never wanted this war." "None of us did," Drake had replied gently. "But we're all that's left." Over time, They had learned to live with their pain, channeling it into purpose. Each small victory against the Brax gave them strength to continue. Now, as the Defiance approached Ta City, Drake called his top officers to the meeting room. Reed, Miller, Hayes, Trell, and Jones, the core team that had been with him from the beginning. "We've been fighting the guerrilla war for 3 years," Drake said, looking at each of them. "Hit-and-run tactics, gathering allies, building our strength. But we need to do more." He activated a holographic display showing Earth. Recent images showed that the Brax had transformed it even further, covering nearly half the surface with their structures. "Whatever they're doing on Earth, it's accelerating," Drake continued. "And now this new project in Ta City. We need to understand what they're planning." Reed cleared his throat. "Captain, I think it's time to test our new weapon." All eyes turned to the engineer. For the past year, Reed and Hayes have been working on something they called Project Thunder, a weapon that combined human dimensional drive technology with the radiation frequency that disrupted Brax neural patterns. "Is it ready?" Drake asked. Reed nodded. "As ready as it'll ever be. If it works, it could disable an entire Brax ship without destroying it. We could capture one intact." Drake considered this. Capturing a Brax ship would not only provide valuable intelligence, but also prove the Brax could be defeated. "The risk is significant," Trell pointed out. "If we are captured, the Resistance loses its flagship, and the Brax would learn about all our allies." "True," Drake agreed, "but sometimes you have to risk everything to win anything." After hours of debate, they reached a decision. They would target a medium-sized Brax cruiser on patrol near Ta City, test the new weapon, and attempt to capture the vessel. 2 days later, the Defiance lay in wait behind a small moon. Their target, a Brax cruiser, followed its regular patrol route through the system. On the bridge, tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. This would be their first direct engagement with a Brax warship in over 2 years. Weapon charged at 100%. Reed reported from his station. "All systems ready," Miller added. "Boarding teams standing by." Drake took a deep breath. "Engage dimensional drive. Take us in fast." The Defiance shot forward, appearing seemingly out of nowhere next to the Brax cruiser. Before the alien ship could react, Reed fired the new weapon. A pulse of energy, invisible to the naked eye, but powerful enough to make the ship's sensors flicker, struck the Brax vessel. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then the cruiser's engines died. Its weapons went dark. It worked. Reed shouted, disbelief and joy in his voice. "Boarding teams, go," Drake ordered. Miller led the assault team, docking with the disabled Brax ship and cutting through its hull. The team moved efficiently through the alien corridors, encountering confused and disoriented Brax who couldn't put up an effective resistance. Within an hour, they had control of the ship. For the first time, humans had captured a fully intact Brax vessel. Back on the Defiance, Drake examined their prize through the view screen. "Begin full analysis. I want to know every secret this ship holds." Hayes was already scanning the Brax computer systems. "Captain, there's something you need to see." On her screen was a star map showing Earth and several nearby systems. All were marked with the same symbol. "What does it mean?" Drake asked. Hayes' face was pale. "According to their data, these are life harvest sites. Earth isn't just being mined for resources. They're harvesting humans themselves." A horrified silence fell over the bridge. "Why?" Miller finally asked. "What do they want with humans?" Hayes continued reading. "Their species is dying. Some kind of genetic degradation. They're using DNA from conquered species to try to save themselves." Drake stared at the information, a cold fury building inside him. "So this is why they've conquered half the galaxy. Not just for resources or territory. They're desperate." Trell moved closer, all 4 arms tense. "Desperate enemies are the most dangerous kind, but also the most vulnerable. Drake countered. Now we know their true weakness, and we can use it against them. For the first time since Earth fell, Drake saw a clear path to victory. The Bracks were not invincible conquerors. They were a dying species fighting for survival, just like humanity. Set course for the rendezvous point, he ordered. It's time to gather all our allies. We're not just going to keep hiding and surviving. We're going to take the fight to the Bracks. As the Defiance and its captured prize jumped away from Ta City, Drake felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Hope. Not just hope for survival, but hope for victory. Hope for Earth. 7 years had passed since Earth fell. The Defiance was no longer alone. A small fleet of 12 ships now traveled with it, vessels captured from the Bracks and modified with the technology that Reed had developed. Each was crewed by a mix of species who had joined the resistance. Drake stood on the bridge of the Defiance, looking at the tactical display. Their fleet was small compared to the Bracks' armada, but each ship carried the weapon that could disable Brack systems. And now, after years of preparation, they were about to attempt something that had seemed impossible. They were returning to Earth. "All ships report ready," Captain Miller said. She was now a commander, her once young face hardened by years of combat. Drake nodded. "Send the signal. Begin Operation Homecoming." The fleet jumped into dimensional space, vanishing from their hiding place at the edge of the Alpha Centauri system. The journey to Earth would take just 3 hours with their improved drives. Drake retreated to his quarters for what might be the last time. On his desk sat a small hologram of Earth as it once was. Blue oceans, green and brown landmasses, white clouds swirling in its atmosphere. He had looked at it every day for 7 years, reminding himself what they were fighting for. A knock came at his door. "Enter," he called. Trell stepped in, all 4 arms held close to his body in what Drake had learned was a sign of respect. "The crew wished me to speak with you," the alien said. "We want you to know that whatever happens today, you have given the galaxy something it has not had in centuries. Hope." Drake smiled slightly. "We haven't won yet." "No," Trell agreed, "but we have shown that the Bracks can be fought. That alone is a victory." Drake stood and extended his hand in the human gesture of friendship that Trell had learned years ago. The alien grasped it with his upper right arm. "It has been an honor, James Drake," Trell said formally. "The honor has been mine," Drake replied. "Now let's go take back my world." The fleet dropped out of dimensional space just beyond the orbit of Earth's moon. Immediately, alarms sounded across the bridge. "Brack's defenses detected," the tactical officer reported. "Orbital platforms, patrol ships. They've spotted us." Drake had expected nothing less. "Deploy according to plan. Groups 1 and 2, target the orbital platforms. Group 3, engage the patrol ships. The Defiance will punch through to Earth orbit." The battle began. The resistance ships moved with perfect coordination, targeting the Brack's defenses with their special weapons. One by one, the Brack's ships went dark, drifting powerless in space. But the Bracks had numbers on their side. For every ship the resistance disabled, 3 more moved to attack. And not all of the resistance weapons worked perfectly. Some Brack's vessels seemed to have developed partial immunity to their effects. "They've adapted," Reed said, his voice tight with worry. "Not completely, but enough to give them more time to react." Drake watched as one of their ships, the Freedom, took heavy damage from a Brack's cruiser. "All ships, focus fire on Sector 7. We need to open a path." The battle raged for over an hour. 3 resistance ships were lost, but the Brack's defenses were crumbling. Finally, a gap opened in the defensive line. "Now," Drake ordered, "full power to engines. Take us to Earth." The Defiance shot forward, diving toward the blue planet. As they entered orbit, the crew fell silent at the sight below. Earth had been transformed. Vast black structures covered much of North America and Europe. The oceans had been darkened in places by massive floating platforms. The Amazon rainforest had been replaced by a single enormous facility that glowed with eerie green light. "Life signs?" Drake asked, his voice barely audible. Hayes checked her scanners. Human population approximately 1 billion, mostly concentrated in what appear to be labor camps. Brack's presence is heavy, at least 10 million, with the highest concentration in North America. Drake took a deep breath. "Take us down. Target the command center." In his headquarters in what had once been New York City, Grand Commander Vex received the alert. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation that his officers rarely saw. "One of the attacking ships has broken through," Officer Mech reported. "It's heading directly for us." "Impossible," Vex hissed. "No single ship would dare. Sensors confirm it is approaching our airspace. And, sir, it appears to be of human design." Vex's 6 eyes widened. The missing ship. After all these years, he turned to his communications officer. "Order all available forces to intercept. I want that ship destroyed." But even as he gave the order, alarms sounded throughout the headquarters. The human ship had entered the atmosphere and was diving straight toward them. The Defiance shook violently as it cut through Earth's atmosphere. Brack's fighters swarmed around it, firing continuously at its shields. "Shields at 60%, Miller reported. "We can't take much more of this." Drake gripped his chair. "Stay on course. Arm all weapons. Target the main tower." Below them, the massive black tower that served as the Brack's headquarters loomed larger. Surface-to-air weapons fired, filling the sky with deadly energy bolts. "Shields at 40%, 30%. Fire everything we have," Drake ordered. The Defiance unleashed its full arsenal. Conventional weapons hammered the tower's shields while their special weapon, now refined after years of development, penetrated them, targeting the Brack's control systems inside. The tower's lights flickered and died. Its defenses went silent. "Direct hit," Miller shouted. "Their systems are down. Get us on the ground," Drake ordered. "Boarding teams ready." The Defiance landed in what had once been Central Park, crushing the alien structures that had replaced the trees. Brack's ground forces were already converging on their position, but they seemed disorganized, confused by the sudden loss of their command center. Drake led the first team out of the ship. For the first time in 7 years, he stood on Earth's soil. The air smelled different, metallic and strange, but it was still home. "Move out," he ordered. "Take the tower. Find Vex." As his team advanced toward the darkened Brack's headquarters, word of their arrival spread. From the labor camps around the city, humans watched in disbelief as the Defiance, a human ship, battled the invincible Bracks. And for the first time in 7 years, they began to hope. Inside the tower, Vex ordered his personal guard to prepare for battle. The humans had returned, just as he had always feared they might. But he was not defeated yet. The Brack's empire had conquered 1,000 worlds. One ship, no matter how advanced, could not change that. Or could it? As Drake and his team fought their way deeper into the tower, that question hung in the balance. The fate of Earth, perhaps the fate of the galaxy, would be decided in the next few hours. Drake and his team fought their way through the dark corridors of the Brack's headquarters. The special weapons they carried disrupted the Brack's nervous systems, leaving the aliens disoriented and unable to mount an effective defense. Still, there were hundreds of them, and the team had to move carefully. "Command level is 2 floors up," Miller said, checking the building schematics they had downloaded. "That's where Vex will be." Drake nodded. "Team 1 with me. Team 2, secure the communication center. We need to broadcast to the entire planet." As they climbed higher in the tower, resistance grew fiercer. The Bracks here wore different armor, golden instead of black, and seemed less affected by the disruption weapons. "Elite guards," Trull explained as they took cover behind a fallen column. "They have mural shielding." Drake switched his weapon to conventional mode. "Then we do this the old-fashioned way." The firefight was intense but brief. Drake's team had years of combat experience, while the Brax had grown complacent after easy victories. Soon they reached the massive doors that led to the command center. Breaching charges, Drake ordered. Reed placed the explosives carefully, then nodded to Drake. Ready. Fire in the hole. The explosion shook the entire floor. As the smoke cleared, Drake led the way into the command center. A vast chamber filled with strange technology and dominated by a raised platform at its center. There stood Grand Commander Vex. The Brax leader was taller than the others, his exoskeleton darker and more powerful looking. He held a staff that crackled with energy, and his 6 red eyes fixed on Drake with cold intelligence. "So," Vex said, his voice a deep, rattling sound, "the last human warship returns at last." Drake raised his weapon. "It's over, Vex. Your control systems are down. Your fleet is in disarray. Surrender now." Vex made a sound that might have been laughter. "Surrender? The Brax do not surrender. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We will rebuild from this setback." "Not this time," Drake replied. "We know why you're doing this, why you've taken so many worlds. Your species is dying." Vex's mandibles clicked rapidly. "You know nothing, human. We know everything. We captured one of your ships, accessed your databases. You're harvesting DNA from other species, trying to save yourselves from extinction. That's why you need Earth, why you need humans." For a moment, Vex was silent. Then he lowered his staff slightly. "Yes, for centuries, our population has been declining. Our children are born weak, if they are born at all. But the human genome, it is compatible with ours in ways no other species has been. You are our salvation." Drake took a step forward. "At the cost of our freedom, our world. A necessary sacrifice," Vex said dismissively. "One species must die so another can live. Or," Drake countered, "we could help each other, your scientists and ours, working together instead of as conqueror and conquered." Vex's laughter filled the chamber. "Cooperation. Weakness. The Brax take what we need. And look where that's gotten you," Drake said. "Your empire is falling apart. Even now, the news is spreading across the galaxy. The Resistance fleet has broken through your defenses. The invincible Brax have been defeated." Vex roared in anger, raising his staff. "I will kill you myself." He lunged forward with surprising speed. Drake fired, but Vex deflected the shots with his staff. In seconds, the Brax commander was upon him, swinging the energy weapon in a deadly arc. Drake rolled aside, the staff missing him by inches. Miller and the others fired, but Vex's personal shield absorbed the shots. This would be a one-on-one fight. Drawing his combat knife, Drake circled the Brax leader. 7 years of built-up rage and determination fueled him. This creature represented everything that had been taken from humanity. Their home, their freedom, their future. Vex attacked again, the staff cutting through the air with a crackling hiss. This time, Drake didn't dodge. Instead, he stepped inside the swing, accepting a glancing blow to his shoulder in exchange for getting close enough to drive his knife into a gap in Vex's exoskeleton. The Brax commander shrieked, a high-pitched sound that hurt human ears. Black fluid leaked from the wound as Vex staggered backward. "This changes nothing," Vex gasped. "Kill me, and another will take my place. The Brax are eternal." Drake shook his head. "No, you're just another species fighting to survive. But you chose the wrong way to do it." He raised his weapon, aiming at Vex's head. "And you chose the wrong planet to invade." A single shot echoed through the command center. Vex collapsed, his 6 eyes going dark forever. 3 hours later, Drake stood on the roof of the tower. The Defiance had sent the signal to the rest of the Resistance fleet, and they had secured orbit around Earth. More importantly, they had broadcast the news of Vex's death to every Brax ship and colony in the system. The effect was immediate. Without their leader, the Brax command structure began to fall apart. Some ships fled, while others surrendered. On the ground, Human resistance fighters emerged from hiding, attacking Brack's positions that were now vulnerable without central coordination. Miller joined Drake on the roof, her face scratched but triumphant. Reports coming in from around the planet. The Bracks are in full retreat. Some of their commanders are even offering to negotiate. Drake looked out over what had once been New York City. The alien structures still dominated the landscape, but here and there, fires burned as humans reclaimed their territory. What about the other planets? He asked. The other species the Bracks enslaved. The word is spreading, Miller said. Our alien allies are transmitting the news across Brack's communication channels. Rebellions are breaking out everywhere. Reed appeared at the doorway, his face split by an enormous grin. Captain, you need to see this. He handed Drake a tablet showing a live feed from one of the labor camps. Thousands of humans were celebrating in the streets, tearing down Brack symbols and raising makeshift Earth flags. It's happening all over, Reed said. Not just here, on every world the Bracks conquered. The Empire is collapsing. Drake felt a weight lift from his shoulders. 7 years of running, hiding, and fighting. And now, finally, victory. What about the Bracks' genetic problem? Miller asked quietly. Without human DNA, their species will die out. Drake watched the celebrations below. We'll offer to help them, the right way. Not as conquerors and slaves, but as equals. Maybe that's the real lesson here. As the sun set over Earth for the first time in 7 years without Brack's rule, Drake thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. One ship, just one ship that the Bracks had missed, had been enough to change the course of galactic history. The Defiance had lived up to its name. Send a message to all our allies, Drake said. Tell them Earth is free. And soon, the galaxy will be too. Below them, the celebration continued to spread, a wave of hope and freedom that would eventually reach every corner of the stars.